As within, so without. As above, so below. As the universe, so the soul. These lines famously describe what is often characterized as the basis of Hermetism or alchemy. This philosophy revolves around the idea that everything inside our minds or external reality is one and part of the same reality, deeply connected and always in balance. In short, the teachings state that whatever is done or happens in the outside world will have an equal effect on the inside world of our mind. Whatever happens in our microcosm will have an effect on the macrocosm. We can strictly not even speak about having an effect, because it's simply viewed as exactly the same thing. The only thing that lets us experience these things is our conscious mind moving between the one and the other. Now, I want to compare and contrast these ideas to the ideas of Carl Jung, and I want to show that this is not really different in many ways. I want to explain what it actually means and how you can also see that the world inside of our minds is deeply connected to the outside world, and why true change, inside or out, truly lies with the individual. If you like this kind of content, consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel so that you don't miss out on more content like this, and I will be more motivated. Let's dive in. Carl Jung was a Swiss psychoanalyst, and he made significant contributions to psychology. He's most famously known for his idea of the collective unconscious, which is a shared reservoir of experiences and archetypes common to all humans. Unlike the personal unconscious, which contains an individual's repressed memories, the collective unconscious holds universal symbols and themes. The most non-magical way to look at this is by saying that our brain is built out of certain structures, and those structures have grown evolutionary together with the evolvement of humans and society, and all memories that humans had a small impact on how the brain structure would evolve. And basically over time, certain patterns that appeared again and again ingrained a certain structure into the brain, and those can be seen as what can now be defined as the collective unconscious. So kind of symbols and concepts that are common across all humans. The second thing that Jung, basically he coined a term, I think, which is synchronicity. Jung explained this concept where he says that coincidences actually reveal a deep connectedness of everything. Some things happen in your life that seem coincidental. There's no causal relationship between the things happening, but in their meaning, they are deeply connected. For instance, a very simple example you can come up with is you are thinking about an old friend who you haven't spoken to in many, many years, and all of a sudden your phone rings and that friend calls you and said that, hey, I was just thinking about you and I wanted to catch up. That is definitely something that there cannot be, or at least we cannot make the causal connection between you thinking about that friend and that friend calling, but it has a deep connectedness in meaning. And this is what Jung called synchronicity. And the third point that I want to highlight from Jung's discoveries is what is kind of more like a method. It's active imagination, and it's the way in which you can interact with your unconscious in a more controlled and intentional way. So typically we interact with our unconscious in dreams, but that is very uncontrolled and people have a hard time remembering what happened. So Jung came up with a more intentional way to connect to his unconscious. It's basically a sense of meditation, but instead of trying to focus on one specific thing, you are actually trying to let thoughts appear and you are just observing. And if you're interested in doing this, I actually made a video on doing active imagination and how that's also connected to shadow work. What Jung is basically stating, and he has done a lot of experimentation himself with trying to interact with his unconscious and seeing what comes up and interacting with these for instance, characters that pop up or symbols that come up. And he wrote a book, or maybe, I mean, this is a huge book. You can see it, me for scale. This huge book is the Red Book, which is actually, it's debatable whether he intended to publish it at some point, but it's a collection of his notes of his journey in his own unconscious. And it's very beautiful, the stories that he wrote down about the characters that appear in his active imagination sessions and how he interacts with them. And one of the key things that you learn there is that the things that come up from your unconscious can say things that you have no idea before that they will say these things. So they are seemingly autonomous. They have their own will, they have their own questions, desires, emotions. You can learn things from them that you didn't know. They can surprise you, or you can be scared by them. All these things combined really makes me question, what is then the difference between the people that we encounter, or the characters we encounter in our unconscious dreams, let's say, and the people we encounter on the street? Because people outside, your partner, your colleagues, a random guy walking the dog, they all have pieces of information that you don't have. They have thoughts, desires, wishes. They can be dangerous, they can be helpful. And the same is also true for the characters that come out of your unconscious. Do you remember the last time that you met someone that completely changed your whole perspective of life? Was that in a dream or in real life? Another very interesting point of view, another puzzle piece, let's say, is that it is actually already well established that there are so many things that you can observe and sense, of which we only observe and sense a very, very tiny fraction. And what we actually take in as humans is very largely defined by our aim, our goal at that specific moment. So that actually means that the thing that we aim at is changing how we perceive reality. And finally, I quickly touched upon this in my previous video, but imagine a cell in your body. You can definitely define a cell. It has an outside, it has a membrane, and it has an inside where all kinds of chemical processes are happening. But that cell is also part of a greater structure, which is you. So I would go as far as to say that this cell is part of me. I am the cell is me. I mean, of course, there are more cells to me, but it is one with me. It all depends on the level of abstraction that you look at the thing. And I remember very vividly the other day I was at a concert and we were all standing there, and I just started to realize that basically the outside of my skin is also just the membrane. And aren't we just all part of this greater connectedness? And we see that this is the outside because of the scale at which we look at things. But if you zoom out a lot, aren't we part of a bigger entity, a bigger organism that is not so different? So, all right, I'm trying to converge again to a specific meaning or direction or statement. So I want to finish this whole rant off with basically what I think this should mean for you. How can you use this in your day-to-day life? The true sense and meaning of what Jung is trying to do is to become one with your true self. And the alchemists also believe that every person has to undergo this kind of purification process, where you also become what you are truly meant to be. And you do that not only in the external world, and you also do that not only in your internal world by meditating all day, but it's the combination and bringing together and realizing there is actually no difference between the two. It means that if you are trying to fix your life or trying to live a good life, it cannot only be focused on outside, it cannot only be focused on the inside. The things that you do, that you create, or that you destroy in your own life, you also create or destroy in the macrocosm, in the universe. It means that taking care of yourself, your body, your health, is taking care of the world. The reason, and bear with me, take it with a grain of salt, the reason there is war in the world is because people demonize the external instead of accepting and realizing that the demon is no different from you. The demon is inside of you. Truly recognizing that you have power to destroy, maybe even, not even maybe, for sure you have the desire to destroy within yourself, to inflict pain and suffering. Truly understand that and come to peace with that is the only way to protect yourself. And yourself is nothing else than the oneness of reality, from falling into the trap of externalizing evil and therefore causing pain, suffering, war, selfishness, betrayal, all these things. If you betray someone, you in essence just betray yourself. If you externalize evil, you are effectively creating this distance, this difference. These statements might seem harsh, but there's no real reason to believe that there's any other objective reality outside that of yourself. I think that's also it's the power and also the pitfall of science, is trying to always look for an objective reality, where there's no evidence for an objective reality. You can only have your own subjective view of what you might think is an objective reality, but it's always through your lens, and there's no reason to believe that there is anything else than the lens that you are looking at. All rationalizations that there are evil people out there that just want to see the world burn is exactly the schism that creates the sense of non-unity. According to alchemy, as well as to Carl Jung, the goal and purpose of life is to realize the potential that is inside of us, to change lead into gold, to become who we truly are. Life is an adventure, a mystery. We meet people, we meet each other. Hopefully we will meet each other at some point. We dream, we learn. Try to see every interaction with people as something deeply meaningful and symbolic, and try to treat every thought and every dream as something you can learn from. Try to click on the subscribe button if you haven't already, and don't forget to have a nice day.